Welcome, everyone. Welcome to today's edition of What Matters. Here with me, Erica Elita. I'm so glad you're here with me on this Tuesday. And as I always say, but it's always true, I have with me a special guest. Now, before I introduce her, I just really have to say, one, she's my lucky 11. So you are my 11th guest.
Nice.
And 11 is a very special number, so I thank you for being her. And I also want to say, guys, thank you for joining me these last few weeks. It has been one of the best experiences of my life. I hope you're getting as much out of it as I am, because I know I'm having a ball and I'm learning so much. So I just want to say thank you for joining me once again on this Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever day you're watching, but thank you for tuning in. So today I have with me Rhonelle Bruder. Bruder. I see.
Yes.
I told her, tell me, and I messed it up anyways. So Rhonelle Bruder. And Rhonelle was recommended to me by another amazing woman, amazing friend of mine, Sabby Hingston. And Sabby is in Montreal. And Sabby wrote me and she said, you have to have this lady on. She's completely amazing. You have to hear her story. And then speaking with you on the phone, Rhonelle, this is a story that you all need to hear. Inspirational, educational, and all of those things. But I believe that Rhonelle has something today to say to one of you that you really need to hear. So, who is Rhonelle? I'm going to let her introduce herself, but I'll tell you a little bit about her. She's a certified personal trainer, a fitness nutrition specialist. She is the founder of the R.I.S.E initiative, which you're going to hear about in a bit, in a few minutes. But what's fascinating, I think, about everyone we know and we admire that achieves a level of success is where they've come from. And Rhonelle is willing and able to share that with us today, which I think is so tremendous of her and kind and sharing, because a lot of people don't want to show you their ugly bits. They only like to tell you the good stuff. So let's start at the beginning, which is, Rhonelle, tell us about yourself. Okay, first of all, because there's so much to tell, what do you do now? What is your current job?
Yes. So I'm a personal trainer and certified nutrition coach. So I work one-on-one with clients, helping them lose weight and really using a holistic approach. So it's combining exercise, nutrition, wellness, and thinking it more of like a lifestyle change as opposed to just we're trying to lose 10 pounds.
Right. And when you say holistic approach, that's something that I always try to do, is kind of break down buzzwords, because there are a lot of words people hear all the time and they really don't know what they mean. So what does holistic mean?
So holistic is really like an all-encompassing approach.
Your whole self.
Right? So it's not just thinking, okay, we just need to focus on exercise or just what you're eating. It's how are you feeling? How are you feeling about yourself? How are you sleeping? How are your stress levels? Because all these things ultimately will affect your weight and affect your health.
Absolutely, absolutely. So between fitness and nutrition, that is what you focus on, but your mission's a bit bigger, and that's to help people feel better altogether, right?
Yes.
It's not just a weight loss thing, or you're going to fit into this dress.
Yeah.
It's a whole life change that you aim for, correct?
Yes, and that's when I started working with clients, that's kind of how eventually the R.I.S.E initiative came, because I was seeing such positive results. And clients were just reporting back to me that, yes, Rhonelle, I lost weight, but I feel better. My stress levels are down. In general, my self-esteem has improved. And I was just like, okay, this is amazing. I'm so happy to hear this. But how can I use this and maybe help people who are struggling even more? So typically most of my clients are, middle class, they're adults. But thinking of my experiences and times when I think these things would have benefited me the most, I want to be able to help at-risk youth.
Right.
And so that's kind of how I moved into and creating the R.I.S.E initiative.
Okay. And, in helping at-risk youth, which would by definition mean youths that are at risk of not finishing school, of possible incarceration, of poverty, of abuse, children that are at risk. And please keep in mind that a 17-year-old is still a child. Now, you were the definition of at-risk youth, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So Rhonelle is the poster child for at-risk youth, to put it mildly and lightly. But she was the poster child for at-risk youth. Yeah. Now, one of the things that we are going to touch on, and I'm really, really glad you were willing to talk about this, is your upbringing in an interracial family in London.
Yes.
But one of the things that I put in the caption, and it is an attention grabber, is that as a teenager, you were homeless.
Yes.
And even though we are going to go back to the beginning, can you tell us kind of briefly, how did that come about? How did you become, and how old were you when you became homeless?
Yeah, so for me, it was that although I grew up in a very loving home, there's still a lot of issues that I was dealing with. So I was dealing with anxiety, depression, and just I felt this need to escape. And so for me, the way to escape was to leave home. And, of course, being very young, thinking that, I could somehow make it on my own. So I left London, where I had grown up. I went to Toronto, ended up having to drop out of school. So I dropped out of school in grade 11 because I just wasn't able to, stay in school and work and support myself, and just eventually found myself homeless. It was just impossible, obviously at this point, not having any skill sets, not even having a high school diploma, to be able to support yourself. And so I stayed at friends' houses, I crashed on couches, I ended up at shelters, hostels, whatever I had to do.
And how old were you at the time?
So I was 16.
You were 16. Now, I know for myself, the biggest expense that I have, and my biggest concern always, is to have a roof over my head. A roof over my head and that of my children, right? And something my mother had taught me, she said, you know what, always pay your rent first. Even if you just sit in the dark, at least you're inside in the dark. You have to pay your rent first. And so that anxiety of living somewhere, and I've been very fortunate in that, aside from wanting a particular apartment or waiting for an answer, I've never been facing a situation where I'm homeless. And as imaginative as I can be, I can't imagine the level of stress that must have caused you. And, so you've dropped out of school, you're homeless, and a lot of people work and don't have enough money to keep a roof over their heads. So it's not that you're a bum, it's just that what you make from your job will not afford you consistent shelter. And was that your situation? You were working?
Yeah, and another thing, too, I can touch on is being young and being on my own and not having any support systems, you're very vulnerable to be victimized. And so I was often a victim of even economic exploitation. So I had jobs where I was waitressing, but times where I wouldn't get paid. But I didn't know what to do. You're young, and they know that, and employers would know that. So many times, even though I worked, I didn't get paid what I would deserve, what I was earned, and I didn't, you didn't know who to turn to, who to talk to. So you kind of just accept that situation. And so just being able to support myself, pay rent, bills, and just the basics was impossible at that point for me.
Wow. And you talk about being exploited, and people, their predators can sense and see the weak. And as you said, being so young, when you're young, you often feel that you know everything. I was just saying to someone not too long ago, when I was 14, I knew everything. Every single thing that ever needed to be known about everything, I knew it at 14. And it's only as I got older, I realized how much I didn't know. And that's when I got smart, was in accepting that I knew nothing. And, I had a lot to learn. And so people that are older, wiser, who have been through a lot, can see, a 15, 16-year-old girl who's out there with a lot of bravado, but is scared and unsure and has no recourse, and also to being away from your family. And that obviously, which we will talk about after the break, but that obviously wasn't a choice. You didn't see them as an option to go back to.
No, not.
So you left Hamilton, which is, for the audience that isn't in the GTA.
Sorry, London.
London, sorry. So how far is London from Toronto?
So London's about 2 hours, about a 2.5 hour drive.
Okay. And it's a relatively, I know it's grown quite a bit, but it's a relatively small town.
It's
correct?
a smaller community, and at the time, at least when I was growing up, very homogenous. It was a very white community. So my sister and I, both my sister and I were both adopted. We were probably one of the only black children, people of color within London, growing up within my high school, my elementary school. And so,
So that
was an interesting.
That's a very, very different experience. And I know myself as a mother, one of the things that I'm always, I don't want to say concerned in a negative way, but I always look to is that the areas that we move into are, they have different cultures. And I would not want my kids to live in an area where it was just all of one person, unless we were like in the Caribbean or Africa.
Yeah.
You know, I'd like them to be in a mixed community, because I feel there's so much value in that.
Yeah.
But also too, I would never want them to be the only children of color, because I feel that would be so straining on them. So when we come back from the break, we're going to learn a bit about Rhonelle's growing up in London as one of the, I guess could count on one hand, people of color, and being adopted, and how that led her to you know, coming to Toronto on her own at such a young age. So right after the break, we will be right back.
Think you have what it takes to bring value to the community? The TCN TV network is expanding and now accepting TV show proposals. Here's an opportunity to build celebrity status and become part of an elite group of community advocates that are focused on building, strengthening, and empowering our community in a positive way. Are you interested in embarking on a new adventure? TCN TV is searching for people interested in opportunities to change the conversation and pave an unforgettable legacy. If you feel you have something of value to offer, send a written show proposal to shows@mytcntv.com.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity and our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
And welcome back. I'm here with Rhonelle
Bruder.
I don't know why I always want to do that with people's names. Rhonelle Bruder, and she is sharing her phenomenal story of going from a homeless teen, a struggling single mom, to a corporate, what was your position again?
So I worked in healthcare. So I worked as a business analyst.
Healthcare, from a homeless teen to chucking all of that and becoming an entrepreneur, which to me are just so many amazing transitions. So tell us a bit about growing up in London. So London, Ontario is a little town about 2 hours away from Toronto proper. And you know, even though she looks young as a spring chicken, and I'm sure that she is, it was still a while ago when you were young and growing up in London. And demographics change rapidly in growing towns. So where, you know, now you would go and find a thriving, you know, West Indian community or East Indian community, you back up 20 years and nothing, right? Crickets. So you and your sister were adopted.
Yes.
And tell us a bit about that.
So I'm from St. Vincent. So I was born in St. Vincent, born to a young single mom in St. Vincent who worked as a maid, obviously didn't have money, couldn't support her children. And so she gave us for adoption. So I was adopted when I was a toddler with my sister. We moved to London with my family. And I would say my family, they are non-conformists. So my parents are kind of like hippies, free-spirited. So I grew up in a very unique childhood and upbringing. Although there was lots of love in my family, but there was hardships. There was hardships because both of my parents struggled with mental health issues. So growing up within that, there was a lot of challenges, even though there was still a lot of love within the family. And in our family, within our nuclear family, I mean, I always felt included, I always felt loved, but kind of going into the community, I always felt like the other.
Okay.
You know,
And was it were the only children they had, you and your sister?
No, and I also have their eldest child, which is my older sister, which is their biological
Okay,
child.
so they had one child already.
Yes.
And is your sister older or younger than you?
Older.
She's older than you. Okay, and so they deliberately went to St. Vincent for the purposes of adoption?
Well, they wanted to adopt, and interesting, my dad tells me this story, just kind of says like kind of who they are. They went to the adoption agency, and the adoption agency, I guess the agent specifically told them, do not adopt black kids. If anything you're going to do not adopt black kids. We don't recommend transracial adoption. And so, of course, my dad was like, okay,
so that's what we're going to do.
So I'm going to adopt black kids. Because basically they said, you know, no one wants them. So,
wow.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I'm a little bit taken aback
I know, it's sad,
to hear that, you know, and up on the screen we have a picture of you, little
Daddy.
you, and your dad.
Yeah.
And I think that's amazing. Now, question for you. Do you have any contact with your biological mom at all?
So my sister and I were able to get in touch with our biological mother, and we found out we actually have a half sister.
Okay.
So we are in contact with them. It's still very relatively new though.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And are your feelings in general about it positive?
I mean, I think it's positive, but I mean, at the end of the day, the family that raised me, they're my family. That's my mom and dad.
I understand that completely.
Yeah.
I understand that completely. So you were saying now, growing up there, you did feel included by your
Yeah.
with your nuclear family, but there were mental health issues.
Yeah.
And I mean, mental health issues, they trump everything. From
Yeah.
good intentions, perfect physical health, mental health
Yeah.
issues change everything.
Yeah.
And so that probably led to some feelings of insecurity or instability for you.
Yeah, well, I think because of that, my parents weren't necessarily able to be there as they should have been. So there wasn't really sort of that oversight. There was a lot of, I kind of felt like I was an adult when I was very young.
Right.
Whether that was making my own food, cleaning, cooking, you know what I mean? So I became very adult-like at a very young age because of that. And so, I guess that's kind of the downside, I guess.
And so what was the catalyst to you leaving home and going to Toronto? And you picked Toronto. She's
Yes.
like, let me pick the biggest city in Canada,
Yeah.
and I'm going to go there by myself when I'm 16.
Yeah.
And that's what you did.
Yeah, no, I know, which is crazy in hindsight now.
In hindsight.
Yeah, no. But I think for me, it was just that I was really struggling emotionally. Do you know what I mean? Kind of growing up, being bullied in school sort of my whole life, dealing with a lot of things, a lot of my own personal self-hate, low self-esteem, and I wanted an escape.
Right.
And to me, that was just getting out of the house, getting away from everything.
Right.
And so Toronto seemed like this new, fresh opportunity, someplace new. You can almost like start over.
And so did you have any cohorts in this? Was there anyone helping you, egging you on, saying, yeah, come do this with,
No.
This was just an independent decision.
This was me just kind of, I had some friends in Toronto, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go out there, and yeah.
Okay, well, because usually at that age, if you go that far, because 2 hours is far when you're young, from home, there's usually somebody else, and whether it's a boyfriend, or as our parents would call them, a fast girlfriend, some fast friend you have, that encourages you. But so this was really an internal drive. You had to get away.
Yes, I felt that. I probably had undiagnosed depression, anxiety. I didn't have anyone to talk to. So I was dealing with a lot, and just being in a situation where I really didn't have anybody and I felt alone, I kind of felt like getting out of that would somehow help the situation. Not
And
really
so-
the case.
So then when we spoke, you briefly told me about, as you touched on in the previous segment, about the fact that people will then now try to exploit you.
Yes.
And you were not just in your jobs and so forth, but you were a victim of that, or I would say almost an attempted victim, because they didn't quite get you.
Yes.
But, that had happened to you. And for parents out there, and any young people, which I hope you are watching, that are watching, this next part is pretty important because it's happening a lot. I've heard a lot about it happening in the Peel region, in the Durham region.
Yeah.
It happens all over Toronto, Montreal, big cities, little cities. And it's the sexual exploitation of young girls by young guys. That idea of pimps in, the pimp suits and the canes and the hats and the big caddies, they're 16 and 17-year-old boys that you go to school with that, prey on these young girls and then convince them that in order to show their love to them, they would now sell their bodies. So tell us a bit about that experience.
Yeah. And my situation, I think, was a little bit unique in the sense that I was sort of recruited or sort of lured into the industry through a female friend. So just kind of being on my own, sort of connecting with other sort of just like at-risk youth, and that sort of became my own community. And I actually just kind of bumped into a friend of mine who I knew from London, who was a few years older, and she was doing amazingly well for herself.
Oh yeah, she's rich.
That should have been a red flag. But she had like a condo, a car, doing amazingly well. And, basically said, I have these friends. She had her boyfriend and one of his friends, and they can help. They can help you sort of get to where I'm at, And for me, I'm struggling. I can't pay the bills. You know what I mean? I want just to find permanent housing. And so it seemed like an amazing opportunity.
Right.
And, it was just all you have to do is you have to dance.
Right.
So, going to strip clubs and dancing, think of it as like you're wearing a bikini or you're dancing in the club.
Right. I mean, you're dancing,
You're
right?
just dancing. It's, I can't touch you, nothing can happen. And so I think, naively kind of got into something, not sort of knowing, how deep
the rabbit hole goes.
Yeah, and
right?
how it could get into. And so it started off with, her boyfriend and then his friend, who I became very close with, very kind, very generous. Here, we'll buy you the clothes that you need, the shoes that you need. We'll drive you. We'd go to Niagara Falls. They made sure I had like fake ID because obviously I was underage, and we'd go there and we would work. Wow. And then it was just like, okay, well, you do owe us a little bit of money because, we drove you here. We paid for this. We paid for that. And so my thinking was like, okay, like you helped me out. So fair enough. I'll give that to you. And I was still taking home money, cash money, which to me was a lot in comparison to what I was used to. But as it progressed, it happened for a couple months, but as time went on, I started to get even more sort of uneasy about the situation. There was pressure to start doing drugs. That's something that I was never involved in, not interested in. And it was kind of like, oh, try this, it'll help loosen you up. And eventually for me, sort of, I guess the tipping point was in just hanging out just at a house party, all of us together, and witnessing the one guy that I was actually hanging out with and I was getting close with just, I don't even know how to describe it, but literally just attack a woman.
Wow.
That just came up to him and asked him a question. A fellow dancer that I knew, she asked him a question and he just started just brutally beating this woman in front of us. And you're just sitting there like, what is happening? No one says a thing. No one got up to help her.
And this was the first time you saw this?
This is the first time I saw violence. Yeah, for sure. And then afterwards, he just kind of came over, wiped his hands and just started talking as if nothing happened. And
wow.
So for me, that's when I knew, like, I had to get out of the situation ASAP because.
Okay,
yeah.
And so then, I mean, you were very, very, you're very resourceful. You're very resourceful, even with not much around you.
Yeah.
And so at this point, you hadn't yet had your daughter.
No.
And so how did you get out of this situation? Like, how do you, okay, so you come to Toronto, you're struggling, you get your waitressing jobs, they gyp you, been there, done that.
Yeah.
I've actually had that happen to me too, where I waitressed for a whole week and at the end they were like, no, there's no money. And you took your tips and you went home, that's all you had. And then, okay, you have a friend, she's older, she's bawling, car, nice clothes, nice hairdo, nice nails. You're like, wow, okay, you can help me. Everybody's nice, everybody's kind, everything is lollipops and sunshine. Until one day it absolutely isn't. Like, it's like someone turns off the lights. So what does Rhonelle do? Yeah,
so fortunately, I was living on my own. I was renting a room. And I connected with one of my friends and said, like, listen, you have to help me. And it was just a matter of the next day changing my phone number, moving, and almost just disappearing. I mean, because you have to just almost disappear from people like that. And I mean, so completely cut her off, that female friend, just cut everybody off and just kind of went, I guess, underground. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but.
Okay, and you're how old now?
16, yeah, 16.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we come back from the break, I don't interview before the interview, so sometimes my guests shock me, and I'm just, like, trying to wrap my mind around seeing all of this and processing it and getting out. So when we come back, you are going to tell us about becoming a mom and how you transition from recent escapee from possible sexual imprisonment to now single mom to corporate life. I can't wait to hear this. So when we come back, we will be back with more from Rhonelle Bruder.
Yes.
I got it right. I'll be back in a moment. And we're back. I was just at the break, I was just telling her how afraid of being hurt that I am. So I would have been one to disappear also. So now you've done this stealth move. You've disappeared.
Yes.
You've gone underground to escape what you see as your fate. If you continue down this path, it's like inevitable. They're pushing drugs on you as well, and you know that the dancing is going to go into more action eventually, probably with what you just witnessed as the repercussion if you don't participate. So smart now takes off, and you disappear. So now after you disappear, what happens?
So kind of disappeared from that, ended up with a friend of mine who ended up being my daughter's father. And, you know, he was really, really supportive, kind of like helped me sort of get through that. He also was part of in the street life, so he knew. So he was kind of like, you know what these people are, they're pimps, right? And I was like, I didn't even know. I was like, oh my God, you know, so I still didn't even know what was going on. So he was like, you have to get away from these people, really supportive, ended up getting pregnant. And the relationship initially was good, but you know, as things start to change, as soon as I got pregnant, and then all of a sudden I start to see changes in him and his behavior, and it started to become an abusive situation.
And you're how old at this point?
And this time it's still 16.
And she's still 16. Okay.
So then it was physically abusive and emotionally abusive, and that's kind of when I knew that this wasn't going to work. But now I'm in a situation where I'm pregnant. I'm very young, and I mean, this person, even though, you know, it's an unhealthy, toxic relationship, they're supporting me.
Right. Exactly.
So, so now you're like, where do you go? How do you get out of this situation? And so you just kind of, I think at that point, just hope it'll get better. Because that's all you really can do.
And there is you and your little one. And she was, how old was she in there?
Oh my gosh, we were like 3.
3, and she's how old now?
Oh my God, she's almost 16.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Like a lifetime ago.
Yeah, a lifetime.
Right?
I mean, she's
like
so cute,
basically, basically a lifetime ago.
Yes.
And so even though now he's supportive in terms of, when you say supportive, do you mean financially supportive?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And so, but not emotionally or...
Well, initially there was the emotional support, kind of knowing the situation that I had come from. So there
Right.
was that initial support, and just knowing that, you know, for me it was knowing that I had someone who kind of had my back,
Right.
someone who could protect me. And so to me, that was probably the most important thing in the world at that time in my life.
And so then what developed from there? So you see that he's becoming abusive, but are you still pregnant, or have you...
Yeah, so I was still pregnant, and then after I had my daughter, I think for me that was sort of the moment where I was kind of like, I don't know, it's weird, but maybe, you know, you can take a lot of abuse, you can take a lot to yourself, but when you have someone else, this child, this baby that you gave birth to, then it's all of a sudden like, no. You know, like,
it's just, now it's intolerable. I'm not having
nothing's
this
happening to this little girl. And so because of that, I was like, I don't want her growing up in an environment. I don't want her growing up in a toxic environment. I don't want that for her. So I just made the decision that the relationship was not going to work, and I'd be better off on my own.
Okay, and so you're 16, I guess you're 17 now when you have her. Now, how did you support yourself? What did you do next? How does this work?
Yeah, so again, you know, you do odd jobs. Same thing, you know, you do odd jobs, you do whatever you can to support yourself. At this point, knowing that I needed something, I needed to have a career. But it was hard because I didn't have the education, and then how do I go back to school and get an education?
And what grade did you drop out in?
Grade 11.
Grade 11.
11,
right.
you know, so I was like, okay, so what do I do? So I ended up going back and getting a GED, but even with that,
what are you going to do?
That's nothing. And so dreamed of and wanted to go back to school, but it was just really, it was challenging just to be able to work and go to school and just, you know, keep food on the table.
And so how did you end up getting into corporate life? Like, what were for those people out there that, you know, it may not be the exact same situation, but a similar situation where it may just be them, or they may be looking at a young child or several young children. So how do you go from working, you know, getting above that poverty level? Like, there's this ledge that's there that is so hard to get past. And, you know, how did you, I mean, education obviously was one of the ways, just getting your GED. Like you said, it's not, you know, it's a lot better than not having one. Yeah. But then how did you get certified? How did you get into corporate?
Well, so I knew I wanted to go back to school, and so I just had that goal, and I think I had the drive because I knew what I wanted for my daughter. So that was the end of the day. So no matter what I had to do, no matter what I had to sacrifice, I knew it was worth it because I wanted her to have a different, opportunities that I didn't necessarily have as a teenager. And so I went back to school, went to college first. I couldn't get into university because I only had a GED.
Right.
So I went to college first, and I just, I just started goal setting. Little small little achievable milestones. So it was like, okay, I'm just gonna get this paper done.
Right.
And then when you get the paper done, you're like, okay. And then it's like, I'm just gonna get through this one term.
Right.
When I'm done this one term, you know what I mean? And then after you achieve that, you set a goal and you achieve it, you boost your confidence.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
so were you on loans and bursaries, or were you like working part-time, going to night
So
school?
I was working full-time the whole time. I was working full-time. I was able to get, loans and some like merit scholarships and grants and things like that. But I still had to work. I still had to pay the bills, food, childcare, as you know, was very expensive. And so, but yeah, so that was for me, is I think I had the ultimate goal that I wanted to do was I wanted to graduate from university, but I just took it day by day, step by step, and just made it like little small goals that I knew that I could achieve.
And that is some tremendous advice for anybody out there that has a dream that seems so much bigger than them right now, that, you write down that end goal. I want to graduate university, but then you just got to deal with today. Break it down into really small measures, like you said. Yeah. Sometimes, honestly, when I was in college, because I, like you, had my first child when I was 16, and I brought her to college with me a lot of the times.
Nice.
And I was very lucky. I'd go and ask professors if she could just sit in. And some days, the goal was to go to school, was to simply get there. And when I get into the building, I'd be so pleased. And now I'm going to go to all my classes, and I'm going to go home.
Baby steps.
And sometimes it really is baby steps.
Yeah.
And then other times you have more strength, and you can say, okay, well, I'm going to be able to do this term, and it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
But, the small things, and celebrate yourself at those small accomplishments, because what is small to one person is enormous to another. So don't berate yourself. Just make that big goal that you may not even believe you can do, and then just work day to day to do it. And that is one of the reasons that I was so happy to have you here, is because you're just living proof. You are living proof that it can be so bad and so dark, but you can
turn it around.
You can turn it around. And so you go to school. You obviously are successful in finishing. You get your university degree in, what did you get your degree in?
So I have an honors Bachelor of Science in Health Administration.
In health administration, and you're doing that, and
Yes.
you love it, right?
Yeah.
You had said you really enjoyed your job, and then you get bitten by the entrepreneurial bug. And how did that happen? So now you've got a good job.
Yes.
And you're living somewhere good.
Yep.
And your daughter's okay.
Yes.
You're doing a lot better now.
Yes.
And so what in the world, as an entrepreneur, I can say this because I think myself crazy many a day. What in the world, after being so insecure all your life, and finally getting the security that so many people crave, that good job with the title,
security,
and the education, and then you're like, oh, I'm gonna go work for myself. What is it about you, lady? What possessed you?
I think it's like every time you set these challenges, these goals for yourself, and then you achieve them, it really helps, just increase your self-esteem, your confidence in yourself. And so after I finished university and I started working in the corporate world, and then I started to go back to school because I wanted to go to graduate school. So I did that, and I was really happy with, what I was doing with my career, but at the same time, I didn't feel passionate about it.
Right.
So I love health and I love technology, so it was the perfect mix for me, but I still felt this kind of like aching thing,
void.
I needed to be doing something more. And so I've gone to health and fitness. It's something that's always been a part of my life. So kind of going back to my family, they were always like health and nutrition and wellness was a huge part of how I grew up.
Right.
And so that's something that I always took with me and stuck with me. And it's one of those things that when I was going through my darkest times that I used. So even the times when I had no money and I was with my daughter, I would go for a run every morning. Because I knew, one, it was exercise was important for that, but also for me, it was a stress reliever.
Right, absolutely.
So I used exercise. I made sure I was eating healthy and nourishing foods so I'd have the energy, I'd have the focus. And so for me, I said, okay, it's definitely helped me. How can I kind of use that to help other people? And just kind of transitioned into the health and fitness thing, and then just decided, I'm just going to do this full time.
That is amazing. And making that leap from 9 to 5 to entrepreneur, it's huge. it's scary.
Yes.
Because when you have a bad week, there's no one to turn around and go, hi, just pay me.
Yes.
There's nobody.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
are that person. And again, it definitely seems with you to be a personality thing. That definitely seems to be
Yes.
kind of your default.
Maybe, perhaps. Yes.
Is a bit of a leaper.
Yes.
But a leaper with some good common sense. I mean, when you were younger, you didn't have it yet to use it, but
Yes.
you definitely, you were blessed by some good fortune that,
Yes.
you weren't hurt or
Yes.
anything, big and tragic didn't
Yeah.
happen, but then you kept pushing forward. And for anybody out there that feels that, okay, but that's not me. Like, she's just a different
Yeah.
breed of cat, and that's not me. Dig deep. You would be amazed at what is inside of you. When we come back from this break, we're going to discuss the R.I.S.E initiative that was started by Rhonelle. Just always reaching out to help others. I find people like this absolutely amazing. We'll be right back after this break.
Think you have what it takes to bring value to the community? The TCN TV network is expanding and now accepting TV show proposals. Here's an opportunity to build celebrity status and become part of an elite group of community advocates that are focused on building, strengthening, and empowering our community in a positive way. Are you interested in embarking on a new adventure? TCN TV is searching for people interested in opportunities to change the conversation and pave an unforgettable legacy. If you feel you have something of value to offer, send a written show proposal to shows@mytcntv.com.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity in our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
And we are back with Rhonelle Bruder. I actually practiced that before I said it. Don't give me too much credit. And she has shared with us today her amazing, I use the word journey a lot, and I've been using my thesaurus, but this is a journey. This is an absolute journey of, being adopted from St. Vincent to a white family in London, Ontario, a little town, to, then as loving as they are, finding out that my parents have some mental health issues and instabilities. I'm going to make a life of my own in the biggest city in Canada when I'm 16 years old. Whoops, ran into a pimp, gotta go. This is your story, lady. I'm just summarizing it. And, then the savior, now I'm pregnant. Oop, the savior is not a knight in shining armor. He's more like an idiot in a tinfoil hat. And then I'm just going to go to school. I'm going to work my butt off in every direction. I'm going to get my credits at night. I'm going to take care of my child, and I'm going to do this. And she chipped away at this massive rock in front of her over time, got her degree, went into health, got her degree in health sciences, lands a great job in corporate, but that buzz that lies in entrepreneurs' ears, that little buzz that tells you there's more, and that hole that tells you there's more. And obviously, being such a caring person and caring for others, she wanted to share that with other people. I feel good, and a lot of us, when we're in dark places, we develop bad habits. And instead of, relying on a bottle or, getting high or eating for comfort, you're like, I'll go for a run. taking that good nutrition to fuel yourself so that you can continue, and realizing how much that kept her balance, and said, I want to share this. So then you become a certified personal trainer. You get your, even though you knew it in your mind and your heart and your practice, then you get your fitness, nutritional specialist. And then she decides she's going to start the R.I.S.E initiative, which is a not-for-profit, correct? And when I was speaking with Rhonelle, I said, you know, I had looked in not-for-profits and my head spun at the paperwork. Just the paperwork alone, it's like a whole new world. And so tell us what the R.I.S.E initiative is, how you got it started, and what do you do for people?
Yes, so the R.I.S.E initiative, it's an evidence-based model. So it's a program to help strengthen resiliency in at-risk youth and vulnerable women using health and wellness. So really what it is, and it's something that I'm piloting in the fall, is 12-week workshop, split into 3 parts. So 4 weeks focused on nutrition, 4 weeks focused on exercise, and then 4 weeks on wellness and stress management. And it's going through different fun, interactive things, discussions, sharing personal stories, and really helping at-risk youth learn different ways and tools and strategies to sort of navigate life so they can transition successfully into adulthood. And so for me, I found that health, that wellness, that holistic, as talked about before, approach to health really helped me in my darkest times. And so using that with what I know sort of from my educational experience and then my professional experience to create this program.
That's amazing. And so you say, and I like that, fun, interactive activities, because, you know, we're preached at enough and sitting down in those classroom environments, which for more and more of our children are not working. That, you know, sit at your desk and listen to me for 2 hours and then regurgitate it back to me. It's just, more and more, it's not working. And I mean, that's a whole other discussion. That's a whole other show on why it seems to not be working as much as it did before. But getting at-risk youth involved in taking command of their life and developing those positive habits, I think that is so tremendous. So instead of perhaps say, okay, you know what, every day I come home and I couldn't find a job, or I'm working this crappy job, I'm gonna, you know, have a drink. Or I'm just gonna sit on my couch. You're saying run.
Or, you know, whatever, it's many different things. So the way the program is currently right now, because I'm working with the youth, so it's more going to be a user-informed model where I'm asking them, like, for elicit their feedback. What do you guys like? What works for you? And it's youth are different, obviously, than us and adults. So for them, they're like, you know what? Teach us how to cook a healthy meal. Show us how to grocery shop. Like, these are things that are important to them. So it's important to sort of build the workshop around things that are important to them and then what's going to benefit them the most. But it's the idea that being at risk, being homeless, struggling with poverty, many of the things that these youth are struggling with, it's so much easier sometimes, like you said, to sort of engage in risky behaviors. Just because you're living in such a high stress, right? Like you're constantly in high stress. So it's okay. So how can we have you do things that are healthy and sort of help you instead of hurt you? Instead
of putting you deeper in that situation. And I think also too that one of the big things with that very risky behavior and apparently self-destructive behavior is lack of vision for the future. When you don't have a goal, if you can't picture yourself somewhere in 5 or 10 years, you're a little bit, you know, loose and free with today, because you've never even thought about 5 years from now, or where you could be, or what you could do, or the fact that if you do this, it's going to stop you from being able to do this in a few years. So I think that lack of vision, but also, as you said, not having the correct tools to navigate life. You know, we're hearing more and more from people that what our kids need to learn in school are things like, you know, how to keep your credit solid, and like you said, how to grocery shop.
Just like, I think, like basic sort of skill sets that typically you would develop in the home. But these youth are on their own, so they don't have anyone to show them these, right? Exactly. So it's helping them with that, and really, so once we go into the wellness workshops, it's really about positive thinking. It's about, you know, setting sort of goals, kind of using sort of the strategies that I was talking about, where, okay, you can have sort of a long-term goal, but let's break that down. Let's break it down to little things that you can do today that are achievable. Because when like you said before, like when you think of something like you want to go to school or you want to, buy a house or something, it's very daunting. To the point where a lot of people just give up because it's just too overwhelming and it seems impossible. So if you just kind of focus on the small things that you can achieve, then eventually you sort of chip away to that goal.
Absolutely. And you're right in that, as you get older, you also see the difference in time, how quickly time passes, right? So you realize that 10 years is really not that long. But when you are 15, 4 years is a lifetime. Yeah. It's ridiculous. You can't envision it. It's just so hard. So, for even with people with, children at home that are not at risk or children in your community, helping them break those things down. Because, for example, I remember when I was a kid, summer lasted a lifetime. Yeah. And Christmas was really far all the time.
Now it's like...
And now as an adult, I mean, it's September, and I'm like, how am I going to pull this December thing off? So it's a very different construct of time in your head. Yes. So I think that tip that you gave of, okay, I finished university in 4 years. Now we're going to do this week. Yeah. And you know what? For you right now, mentally, this week may be too big. The whole week is too much. Just get through today. Or, as I said, with my situation, sometimes just get to school.
Just get to the building.
Just get to the building. Get there, go in. Okay, yay me. Yeah. Now go to your class. And each step brings you closer to where it is that you want to go. So I think that is tremendous. So in all of this, and all that you've shared, and all that you've done, and you've only just started, so I can only imagine what else you have for us in this world. What if you could summarize it? If if somebody said to you, okay, you have this little short paragraph, Rhonelle, to give that at-risk youth or at-risk adult female, and even more so, something I've been speaking more and more on are the men in our community, and our men are at risk too. It doesn't matter if they're full-grown adults. It doesn't matter if they have a full-time job. They're at risk in so many ways. All of us are actually at risk. Yeah. They say that the average Canadian is 2 paychecks, like what? I think 70-something% of us are 2 paychecks away from losing our home or apartment. Yeah. 2 paychecks. To me, that's very risky, okay? It's quite risky. So if you had to summarize your advice, what would it be? What would you say?
I think what it is really focusing on strengthening the resiliency. So developing the strategies, the tools, the different things that you need to be able to handle life's challenges. And so, because a lot of times when I talk to youth and I'll share my life, so I share my lived experience, and obviously that definitely, then they say, okay, well, like you get us, you understand, you've been through it. Mm-hmm. But I also want to make sure that I let them know that even once I got a job, even once I had that great job and I had the nice place to live and all that stuff, I still had problems. I still had challenges. It doesn't end. It's not all of a sudden, and even people who haven't experienced things I've experienced, they still go through things. So to me, it's increasing and strengthening that resiliency, because life is always going to throw things at you. And it's a matter of just being able to, no matter what it is, bounce back.
I love it. Yeah. I love it. That is such a great message that, there's no magic moment where everything just falls into place. And, when you achieve your goal now, the sky's going to open up and the rainbow's going to shoot down and everything's going to be okay. I finished university. There'll be another problem. There's always something else. So yes, increasing your resiliency and being able to cope and having good coping mechanisms at all different phases in your life, whatever they may look like, whatever your success may be, your success story, you have to raise your resiliency. And I love that message. I think it's so important. So how do we reach you? How do we contact you?
Yes, so you can go to my website, so www.rhonnellebruder.com. Mm-hmm. You can follow me on Instagram. So I have my personal page, which is nellb_fit. And I have the R.I.S.E initiative page, so rise.resiliency. And I know you can also follow me on Twitter at nellbfit.
Amazing. And everything will be posted as it's been posted during the show, right, Anisha? And it will also then we post under the link. If you have any questions, send her a message, send me a message. I will harass her with said message. Click on the link, share the link. If you have anything to add, if this resonated with you in any way, please let me know. I am here for you. This is what this platform is for. I want to empower, uplift, inspire everyone as I'm being blessed to have that happen to me. So guys, once again, I thank you so much for spending your time with me, for giving me, your attention. And I will be back next Tuesday with another amazing human being to share more with us to be a better us. So I'll see you next week. Thank you.